Welcome back to the Pearls and Perils podcast. I'm your host, Peta-Kay. It feels so alien saying that it has been such a long time since I recorded. I think the last episode I posted was in April. I did not think that I would take 6 to 7 months to come back, but a lot has been happening and I really just needed to take a break. I will get into that a little bit later in the episode. But honestly, I really just needed to take a pause. Throughout the summer specifically, I was just feeling really overwhelmed. And just honestly, I just needed to take a break, to pause. And I just got to the stage where I just felt I've been doing so much for so long. I just want to focus on being a normal person, on just doing one thing. Just focus on my 9 to 5 after work, do whatever I want to do, not have to think about working with clients, scheduling meetings, creating content, or any of that, just being. So the last 6 months, I've just been being. And it's definitely been a much needed break. It's given me time to pause and reflect, and also to really consider, do I want to continue with this podcast? Do I want to continue with creating content and sharing that online? One thing that I've discovered since taking this break is it really helped me to see that I genuinely really enjoy creating content, specifically the podcast. I've missed it. Now, I may not be a number one on any chart. I may not have the most amount of followers on my platform, on my podcast, but even just, the occasional times where I would log in and I'd seen that somebody would listen to an episode, and it's like, do you know what? There are still people listening. And I think sometimes, for me anyway, it just kind of feels like, not what's the point? It's never been a thing of what's the point, because my focus has never been on being the best, especially when it comes to creating content. I think there's certain things in life that I'm very competitive. I like to win, I like to excel in what I do, but there's certain things that I do that I would never say my aim is to be the best. But my aim with the Pearls and Perils podcast is really to just be authentic to who I am, to be able to share my pearls and perils, to be able to learn from others as well. And I think I just needed a break because your girl was tired. In essence, I was tired. I was feeling overwhelmed and I just needed to pause. And I think this time off has helped me. There's so much I've done this year. There's so many things I've learned, experiences I've had, turning 30 in January. Now we're in November. I'm recording this on the 9th of November. I'm going to post this tomorrow on the 10th. There's so much that's happened this year, so many things that I've learned, so many things have shifted in my mind that I never imagined would happen. And I'm just like, what is going on? Is it the age? Is it hormones? But we'll get into that in another episode. But for today, I wanted to dive into something I've been wanting to speak about for months, but I've not been here. But here we are. So let's talk aesthetic without substance. I think also one of my frustrations and one of the reasons why I realized that I really need to take a break from posting online and also just coming back a little bit from social media, not consuming as much, is that I feel like with our generation, it's not everyone, because I'm going to speak about certain topics, and of course, it's not everyone. It's going to be a lot of generalizations, and we know this. But I think there's this inherent nature in our subculture. I'll probably say specifically Gen Z, younger millennials like myself, that we are very much focused on aesthetic, having a certain lifestyle, portraying a certain lifestyle without actually having the substance for that. And this goes deeper than just the way that you look or even some of the things that you may do. But I just think there's so much consumerism, there's so much materialism that's consuming our society and the way that we navigate our lives, even our friendships. Some of the story times that I've seen online, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And also, this kind of leads me a little bit to where I want to grow and evolve too, because taking this time has helped me to kind of rediscover my own creativity, the things that I enjoy, the things that I don't necessarily talk about that I want to trial and doing, and just not focusing on the numbers and just being me. And if it lands, it lands. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I just think sometimes we are just so focused on aesthetic, on looking a certain way, without actually having the foundation and substance behind what we are presenting. And it is one of those things where, a lot of the times you are told, fake it till you make it, you don't need to have it together, but you need to look put together. And I think while in some ways there are some positives to being confident, presenting yourself in a certain way, even if you're not there yet. I definitely agree with believing in yourself and showing up as your best self and not putting yourself down, especially when you are putting yourself into rooms or you're trying to navigate different opportunities. And with where the economy is right now, yeah, things are so much more competitive. The job market is in the bin right now. First it was the dating market was in the bin, but the job market is also in the bin too. And I just think, of course, there is that element of needing to be confident to network and show up and create opportunities for yourself. But at the same time, there's a level, and I think there's a line where it just becomes completely delusional and it just becomes superficial and even I'd even say narcissistic in a sense. And this is also another thing. I feel like our generation, we a lot of the times we are focused on all the wrong things. Like there's so many things going on in the world, so many crises happening, starvations, civil, like the if you just Google and see what's happening in the world, there is so much terrible things that are happening, and I think sometimes we are just focused on all the wrong things. And I think we're a little bit delusional. I think as a generation we are a little delulu. And I think, a little I think a small percentage of delusional is okay, but there's a certain level where you're just out of touch with your reality. So I wanted to break down the idea of aesthetic without substance in a number of ways. And I think ultimately for me, when I think about aesthetic without substance, I think about portraying or living a life that doesn't have healthy foundations laid. So if we talk about finances, being a finance coach and someone who naturally people speak to me about finances, whether they're clients or just friends or family, somehow money comes up or somehow I bring the conversation up. There is this element where a lot of the times, and I think we're almost set up as well to live above our means. It's becoming increasingly easier for us to access things that we can't afford. However, getting on the property ladder, now that one they're making harder and harder. But when it comes to consumer debt, they are making it so much easier to access things. Whether it's having a car that is way beyond your means, you can get it. If you've got enough credit, you can get it. Or whether it's being able to buy things that's going to take you about 3-4 years to pay off, it's easy to access. And so the idea and the practice of living above your means has just become normal. Most people are living above their means. Most people are stretched, are living paycheck to paycheck. That is the reality. It's almost a discrepancy when somebody isn't living, paycheck to paycheck. Most people, they're counting down the last days to payday. They have nothing left until then, no savings. You're just in the overdraft or depending on the credit card to get through those next few days or weeks until the next payment. And this is the reality that most people are living. And this is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And also, it comes to a point where if something then happens when you're already in a deficit, you're going to be even more in a deficit. And this is what I mean about not having healthy foundations laid. I'm someone that there's certain things that I'm someone that I'm someone that I'd say is not very materialistic. For me, I'd find it very hard for me to justify spending £2,000 on like a handbag or a material item. If it's like, I don't know, something tech, so maybe, I don't know, really good computer or some kind of investment, I could part ways with it if I could afford it. But for me, the idea of spending £2,000 on something that for me materially doesn't feel of value, I wouldn't do it. However, things that I value, experiences, a holiday, or being able to do something or investing something that I feel is going to benefit my life or allow me to help others, I'm going to do it without even thinking. Because for me, that's something that I give priority to. That's important to me. However, for other things that might not be as important, I'm not going to spend my money on it. So ultimately, for me, I have boundaries when it comes to my finances. This year, I traveled the most I've ever traveled in any year. And next year is probably going to look very different to this year. But turning 30 this year was like, I want to experience, there's certain things I want to do. I want to go to the different places. And this year, I'm really grateful I was able to go to Singapore Let's go from January. So January, I went to Turkey, Antalya for my birthday, turning 30 there. In March, I went to Singapore with my husband for a few days. In May, in March, I went to Singapore. So that was my first time in Asia with my husband. And honestly, it was such an amazing trip. I definitely need to do like a travel highlight and talk about all the trips I've had this year and the things that I've learned and things I've experienced and all the things that I've taken away from each trip, because I think there's so much you learn when you travel, when you do go to a different country. You see the quality of life, you see the differences in how people are, the culture, and just even just the way the day-to-day living looks is very different, and it can be quite eye-opening as well. And then in May, I went to Tunisia with my besties. We had a really great time as a group. Tunisia, there was some good and bad, but ultimately we had a great time as a group. If you follow me on TikTok, you might have seen the recap for Tunisia. In July, I went to Montenegro for a couple of days for a friend's 30th. Had a good time. Again, there was some, Montenegro, your airport, you need to do better. But anyways, then in September, we had our grand finale trip of the year. We went to Japan, me and my husband. This is a trip he's wanted to go to before we even got together. And he's wanted to go for like the last 5 years. And every year I'm like, no, next year it's too expensive, it's too expensive. But thank God this year we were able to make the trip, and it was amazing. Now, I share all this to say that traveling and being able to travel has something I've always wanted to do for a really long time. However, I've always traveled within my means. 6, 7 years ago, traveling to 4 or 5 countries in a year was not feasible. Couldn't afford it. Therefore, I didn't do it. But this year, we were able to make that happen. And I think sometimes we get lost in what we feel we deserve and what we want for ourselves versus what our reality is right now. And I think, and honestly, there is nothing wrong with humble beginnings. There's nothing wrong with building sustainably, with taking your time, with going along your own pace. And I think sometimes as a generation, we are in such a rush. We're in a rush to grow up. We're in a rush to have everything all at once. We're in a rush to have this specific lifestyle. And a lot of the times we take shortcuts. And when you take shortcuts, it's almost like if you're building a house. I'm not an engineer, but common sense tells me that there are certain things when you're building a house that are essential for you to have a strong foundation. And if you try to take shortcuts or skip, or go for the cheapest material, it may look great aesthetically on the outside. The house may look great, the renovation may look great, but after some time, those shortcuts are going to catch up with you. And it's the same with your life. The aesthetics may be there. You may look good. You may look like the boss babe. You may look like the guy that has it all together on the outside. But if you're not doing the work internally, if you're not actually investing in yourself as a person, if you lack substance, there's only so far that your aesthetic is going to get you. And I think that a lot of people, there comes to a certain age or a certain moment in your life where that starts to catch up with you, where that pretty face is not taking you to to the rooms it used to take you before, where just winging it is just not working anymore. And I think sometimes it's just important just to go back to the drawing board, to just pause, to take a step back and to just look at your life. And for me, that's what I've been doing over the last 6 months. I won't say it was this really deep moment, because really and truly it wasn't. There's definitely been very hormonal moments, mini life crises over the last 6 months, and really just reflecting and thinking about, what do I actually want? Like, is this what I want? Rediscovering things, just taking a step back and honestly just thinking, okay, is the way that I'm living right now really what I want to be doing? What do I want my life to look like in the next 40, 50, 60, 70 years? Disclaimer, my windows are very thin and I can hear a child screaming outside and I keep having to pause the recording, but you're getting the real right now. You're going to get the real. I may or may not be able to edit it out, but if you do hear some screaming in the background, it's not me, it's outside. Back to the episode. But yeah, and I think finances specifically is often an area where we do this. The aesthetic is there, but the substance is not. The foundations are not. Savings aren't there. Savings aren't a priority. Working on investments, having a healthy relationship with money and credit it doesn't sound sexy, it doesn't sound great, but these are really important things. I urge you, if you're someone that you're listening to me now, whatever age you are, I want you to think about, what is your relationship with money? What is your relationship with your finances? Are you happy with the way that you manage money? And if your answer is no, I want you to then ask yourself, what is the main area that I need to work on changing? Because I tell you, it's not going to change by itself. It's not. It's all the habits, the ideas, the thoughts, the beliefs that you have, and all of those things will take time for you to change. But it's really important to look at the bigger picture and really to ask yourself those tough questions. And then even thinking about health, let's be real. I'm a woman, for much of my life, I've had this dream body in my head that I've wanted to achieve. I ain't got there yet. And that's okay. But even when I think about the times in my life where I've been like, okay, I'm going to go on this health journey, I'm going to go on this fitness journey, I'd probably say pre 2022, because the last 3 years, the changes that I've made have more so been for the right reason, which is why I've been able to maintain the weight that I've lost, although I've gained a little bit back, but I'm still below my highest weight, which I'm proud of. But all the times in the past where I've like, okay, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna, change my diet, or I'm gonna start working out regularly, the focus has always been aesthetic. I'm not going to lie to you. It has never been about, oh, I just want to be healthy, or I just want to be a healthier me. It's never been about my health. It has been about the aesthetic. And while I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to look a certain way, wanting to feel good, wanting to be happy and comfortable with your body, I think that's actually a good thing. Feeling confident in the way that you look, it does have an impact on how you navigate the world, on how you navigate relationships, and even how you treat other people. Because quite often, people that are insecure can often project those insecurities onto other people, and deal with things with envy and all those things that a lot of the time is all rooted in insecurity. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a certain aesthetic, but I think also it's going back to being realistic, looking at your body, your natural body composition. Maybe there's a certain, dream body that you want that naturally you'll never be able to achieve. You can do all the workouts, you can do all the meal plans, it's just not going to be achievable based on your genetics and all those other factors. But also prioritizing other things like your health. Now for me, being in my early 30s, my health is something that I'm thinking a lot more about. I'm trying to be more intentional. And even the last few years where I've been working on being more active, I'll probably say since I've come back from Japan, I've gone to the gym maybe once or twice. I've not been as active, but something I have been doing is just going on walks. Times when I've not felt like going to the gym, or I've just not had the time, or I've missed the time I wanted to go, or I've gotten really busy with other things. One thing I've been like, okay, I'll go for a walk. Let me get some steps in. Let me just move my body and just focusing on movement, focusing on just doing something, even if it's not just a long workout in the gym. It's okay, simply, I'm just going to get my steps in. I've been doing a step challenge, the Sabi Sweat 12K challenge. So shout out to them. And it's a 70-day challenge. It should be finishing in a few days. And I'm proud of myself. I did this challenge because I wanted to challenge myself. Typically, at my most active, I was averaging 10K steps a day at least anyway. But I wanted to do something that's going to push me a little bit further, to do something that's a little bit extra than what I'm doing now. And it's really come in handy because the last few weeks and months has been quite emotional. There's been just a lot of things happening. I'm like, is this the 30s? What is going on? But just having that goal and having that thing to push me to be accountable to, like, okay, go get your steps in. You've only got a few rest days left, has really been helpful. And just focusing on my health and, what are my goals? Okay, I might not get to what I want in 1 year. It may take me 2 years, it may take me 10 years. And I think also sometimes it's just looking at, for what you are trying to do, what are you willing to sacrifice? And also being real with myself. One thing that I can say is that I've always been real with myself. And I always ask myself, okay, am I willing to do this? Like, am I really willing to do what it takes for this thing that I say that I want? And if I'm not even going to complain about it. My frustrations come from when I'm doing the things and I'm not seeing the results that I want to see. But even when it comes to that, just thinking about things differently. So much changes as you get older. Your hormones change, your body changes, and there's so many different factors that can affect you, not only physically, but even cognitively as well. And yeah, just thinking about things differently, focusing on the core of my health, doing what I can. It's not been perfect, but I'm working on it. I'm working on trying to just build a healthy lifestyle that I can maintain. No fad diets, no shortcuts, nothing too extreme, but thinking about sustainability. Sustainability is one of those buzzwords that's spoken about a lot, especially when it comes to the environment. But I speak about sustainability a lot when it comes to changes that I'm trying to make. I speak to people about being sustainable a lot when it comes to their finances and the goals that they have and the changes that they want to make. Because so often we set ourselves up to fail. We go from 0 to 100. We go from doing nothing to be trying to do 110%. And it's not sustainable. And quite often we set ourselves up to fail. But going back to the idea of aesthetics without substance, this also can show up in our relationships, in our friendships. And maybe I might need to do a part two because I didn't want this episode to be too long. I want to keep it short and sweet. But maybe you like the longer episodes. Let me know. I don't know. Do you like shorter episodes? Do you prefer longer episodes? It'll be really great to have your feedback. So if you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment. Let me know what your preferences are. Let me know what you're thinking of this topic and what comes to mind and any ideas that you have. Let's have a discussion about it. But even when it comes to relationships, I think I'll probably need to do a part two or a separate topic on the aesthetics without substance when it comes to relationships, because there's so much. And I think if I go into all of it, this will be way too long. But I just kind of want to do a little intro into that. I think also thinking about relationships, the substance of that, what is really important. So often, I watch a lot of dating shows, reality TV. I love that kind of thing. And I just find it so interesting when a lot of the times people are like, oh, yeah, my dream person is this, this, and this. And a lot of the time, all the things that they're listing are material things, 6'3", tall, dark, has a good job. Quite often nobody talks about character. Nobody talks about the nobody talks about the key values and things that are really important to them. And a lot of the times you end up just going for the same kind of person but just with a different name and maybe a few changes in between. And the actual core important things that really matter, we often don't focus on. And yes, I'm not saying you should just go with someone that you don't find physically attractive because they're compatible to you on paper. No, you need to be, attracted to your partner. You're human. However, I think sometimes it's just shifting your focus from not just focusing on the aesthetic side of things and the outward appearance, but taking time to get to know that person inwardly. And even a lot of relationships that do break down, a lot of the times it was there from the beginning. It was there from the beginning. When you go a little bit deeper and you start to unravel and you see beyond the surface, a lot of the times you can see that, oh wow, those people really weren't compatible. He really wanted to have kids, she did not want to have children. He wanted to live a certain lifestyle that she did not want, and there was no compromise in between. It wasn't a thing that they were able to easily compromise on. And I think it's just really important to actually look beyond the surface. And I think sometimes because we often just take things at face value, we end up getting into relationships, getting into situations that we could probably avoid had we just been a little bit wiser, had we just taken a little bit more time to think, to suss things out before really just pouring ourselves into it. And this is just a few of the thoughts, a few of the things that I wanted to touch on. I just wanted to open up the topic. I will definitely come back to do a part two on the aesthetics without substance and how that relates to relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships, because I got a lot of things that I think are relevant. But I want to know your thoughts. What did you think of today's episode? I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm back. I'm back. Give me some grace. I'm gonna do my best. For now, I'm gonna keep Mondays as the day that I aim to post weekly. On a Monday, I think I've said this in the past, I do want to start doing video episodes, but right now I've got storage issues. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So for now, we're just going to do audio. But at some point, I really do, especially coming into 2026, I definitely want to start doing some video as well as audio. But bear with me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for those that listened to episodes while I was MIA. I really appreciate it. Just seeing that people are still listening, it definitely gave me the motivation to want to come back, because it's like, oh, okay, people are actually listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it. Share it on your Instagram, TikTok, whatever, wherever you can share. Tag me in it on Instagram at Your Finance PT or at the Pearls and Perils, all the things. But yeah, if you haven't already rated and left a review, please do so. It makes such a huge difference, and I would really, really appreciate it. But thank you for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your week. We are in November. We are trying to lock in. We're not trying to lock out. And I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode. If you have any ideas, questions that you think would be useful, check the show notes. You'll have all the details of how you can reach out to me, and I would love to speak to you then.